No.
Is it H-E double hockey sticks?
Hell?
Quiet coyotes. No, it's the great before. This is where new souls get their personalities, quirks, and interests before they go to Earth.
This is obviously a film that tackles some big ideas. We're talking, the meaning of life to just put a very broad point on it. But yeah. I'm wondering how do you approach tackling something like that for an audience? We're going to have a younger audience seeing this. We're going to have older audience seeing this. How do you find the balance, not making it maybe too scary or too big of an idea?
Well, I think a lot of it just is reflective of us as people. We generally start with something that is going to speak to me. Well, I'll just speak for personally as I'm developing. Something that's going to speak to me for the 4 or 5 years I know this is going to take. And then as we go in, we start to be mindful of the different ages that are going to be watching. To make sure that there are things for kids that are appealing and funny and slapstick and verbal humor and all those things.
Yeah, it's interesting with the idea. We don't really talk about what's for kids or what's for adults. It's unusual. It's where we're movie making. It happens to be animated, but I think we always kind of approach it as it's something for everyone. It's for the entire family, but we don't really think too much about what's going to appeal to kids versus what's going to appeal to adults because we're so focused on the story. To be honest, there's a certain point in the process where we're so in the weeds where we're all looking at each other like, is anyone going to like this except because we've been in it so long and we haven't shown it to anyone outside of our bubble that we start wondering like, is anyone going to be into this movie? So it was actually kind of refreshing for me. Something that I know a lot of filmmakers don't like, but the first time we did a test screening for kids, or a test screening for audiences, it was exciting to just share it with someone. And I was pleasantly surprised by kids often get things that their parents think they won't understand. So funny after our first kids screening, adults saying, I really enjoyed it, but I think that it's too complex for my child. Then have that child cut the adult off and explain in intricate detail everything about the film. So.
That's so funny. Dana, I'm curious, maybe you could speak to kind of what Kemp had just mentioned. Were there certain moments, especially when we're getting into what the great before looks like, or Counselor Jerry or something like that, were there certain moments where you did have to kind of take a step back and be like, wait, we know what we're saying, but will this make sense?
Oh, totally. And I have 2 younger kids. Well, they were much younger when I started this, but I have a 7 to 10-year-old. So I often would show them stuff at home, just or ask them questions and use them kind of and I'd come in and be like to Pete and Kemp and just be like, yeah, they're not going to get that, or they did. But Kemp's exactly right. Like we did that kid screening early on intentionally to see like, okay, from like 4-year-olds to 15-year-olds, and they all really get it. It's really amazing. They're so smart.
Kemp, I know this is your first time working on an animated feature. What was something that was really surprising about the process for you?
Just the level of collaboration. Writing is usually a solitary pursuit. And I've said repeatedly, writing for and directing for Pixar, that is a group sport. And I mean that on like the best idea is the idea that makes it into the film, and it doesn't matter who that idea comes from. So that element of it was very, very different for me, where each group can tend to be very precious and protective of their area. And at Pixar, I think idea sharing goes across departments, across mediums. So great ideas for costumes can come from someone in a totally different department, and you're encouraged to share those ideas. So the collaborative nature of it is very, very different than anything I'd experienced before.
What the? Wow! Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Help! I'm not done! Holy! Oh my goodness! This week, the council. There's a soul missing.